Hi, I'm Jim Watkins and welcome to Hope and Humor. This is a sign that my wife and I proudly displayed while on one of those morning news shows in New York City a few years ago. St. John, who's known as John the Beloved, had some great advice for finding real, lasting love. Well, first of all, love comes from God. The disciple writes in his first letter, quote, "Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God." So many people think that God is only interested in rules, but God is all about love. Jesus, God's Son, reminds us of the most important rule. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Okay, we say that sounds good, but we seem powerless to love like that. Again, St. John writes, "Those who say, 'I love God,' and hate their brothers or sisters are liars. And those who do not love a brother or sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. The commandments we have from him is this: those who love God must love their brothers and sisters also." Second point is the power to love comes from God. Again, from John's letter, "Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love. Not that we loved God, but he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins." Now, anything we have done that is not loving separates us from that loving God. We don't have to murder or commit armed robbery to sin. Sin is simply breaking God's commandment to fully love him and love others. So John also writes, quote, "If we claim to be without sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. But his only Son, Jesus Christ, died and rose again to atone for our unloving behavior." Now, atone means to make at one. Atone at one. So when we confess our lack of love, that's sin, and believe that Christ has died and risen for our sin, we are forgiven and are at one with God and his love. God lives in those who confess that Jesus is the Son of God, and they abide in God. And third, the power to love unselfishly also comes from God. Love from God is not earned, it is a free gift, but it is also learned. John writes, quote, "No one has ever seen God, but if we love each other, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us." We get to know God and his love better through reading his love letter, the Bible, talking to him, prayer, and being with those who also love him, the church. And the better we know God, the easier it is for us to obey his commandment to love him and to love others. Again, John writes, "This is love for God, to obey his commands, and his commands are not burdensome. For everyone born of God has overcome the world of hate." If you'd like to know more about God and his great love for you, please feel to email me at jim@jameswatkins.com. That's jim@jameswatkins.com. And you can see the text version of this and read more about growing in God's love at jameswatkins.com. Real love. I'm Jim Watkins, wishing you hope and humor.